Roy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, and welcome to Listers.
Thank you for having me. How did you get into the fenestration world?
I blame Steve Gardner, who's my now business partner. So I was quite happily making water meters in a factory. That was my first job after university. I studied manufacturing engineering, and I was fortunate enough to get on a sandwich course degree. And I worked in the business for 12 months. Then they sponsored me to finish my degree. Right. And then I was employed by Kent Meters, making water meters, injection molding, proper, engineering, CNC machines. I was quite, progressed through that company, relocated from the Leeds factory down to Luton, which is where I live now in Bedfordshire, and enjoying myself, spending money, redesigning factory layouts and capex, exciting projects, working in a really profitable business. And then Steve, who was my then boss, he joined the business 3 years before, and he was kind of the guy I really hung on to his coattails. He was the best boss I've ever had. And he tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Look, I've got some really bad news for you, because you're going to be really upset because I'm leaving." And he said, "But the really good news is you're coming with me." So he'd kind of contrived this plan. He'd basically been offered a job by Carradon Everest, so the big brand in the industry. And Steve was going to Everest as manufacturing director, and he was taking me with him to be his factory manager in the Rhondda Valley in Treherbert. So that was my job. And the guys at Kent Meters tried to hang on to me because they didn't want to lose us both, really. And they offered me a job, dream job really, in Florida, setting up a new greenfield site to make water meters over near Tampa, and set it all up from scratch and then run it, with the factory. I think they call them vice presidents, and they have different titles over in America. But I chose to follow Steve to Everest, and on my daughter's first birthday, Emma, my wife, Isabel, my daughter, who both work in the business as well now, we packed the car up and we drove from Bedfordshire to our new rented home in South Wales, and there I was in the valleys, running a great window factory which still exists today. So that was 1998. So yeah, I'm quite a new. I'd say that's the industry. We were in a cocoon at Everest. We kind of did our own thing. I did get out, and I was kind of manufacturing director there for 12 years. So I did go and see supply chain, and that was my kind of role within the organisation, making the products first and foremost. But I think I only really joined the industry when I left Everest in 2012, when I joined De Koning, because then I'd really got the whole industry. I really made it was my job to really understand the industry better. So I went from like my cocoon at Everest into this, wow, this is massive. When we were at Everest, we used to talk about our competitors being Anglian and Safe-Style, and at the time, Zenith, some of these companies are long gone. Yeah. We very rarely spoke about the wider industry, which represented, 90% of the industry. Weird, really. Yeah. So now I really got to know the industry then when I joined De Koning back in 2012. But yeah, I've been around it for a while, making lots of windows.
I'm really intrigued about so just packed up the house and off you went.
Yeah, on her first birthday, I did get told off for that.
I was going to say,
Mrs. Frost wasn't entirely happy about this, this birthday celebration, but it's just the timing. Yeah. Remember all the dates. At least I remember the date, July 24th, 1990. Yeah, Isabel's first birthday. So, yeah, and off we went, packed up. And, all of a sudden I'm a 28-year-old running this unionised factory in the Rhondda Valley. And it had problems, I had to reshape it. We had too much headcount at the time. They were manufacturing aluminium windows in timber subframes, which, the sales of which were being replaced at a massive, dramatic rate by UPVC windows. And their core product was aluminium in hardwood subframes and then secondary glazing.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you
they
know,
were big on that, weren't they? Yeah.
I had a big job to do. You know, it's in a very small town, Treherbert. He's right at the end of the Rhondda Valley. Everybody knows one another. You know, I'd walk down to the local Spar shop to pick up my lunch, and they all knew me. You know, they all knew me, and I think everyone knew. Everyone was concerned that the factory was going to close,
Right.
and then lots of livelihoods were dependent on that factory. And I'm really proud actually that factory hasn't closed, and that factory still makes windows today.
Right.
You know, and I still stay in touch with quite a lot of the guys and girls in that factory today. You know, more on social media now, Facebook and stuff. We're all Facebook friends. They like some of my posts, and I like their posts, and that's the kind of relationship we've got now, because it's quite a long way from where I live. But I'm really proud that we're able to. And that place now makes, you know, lots and lots of PVC windows. So, you know, we saved it, we saved jobs, we saved livelihoods, you know, in a really important part of the country where there's quite a lot of unemployment. So I'm really proud of what we did at Everest, from a manufacturing point of view anyway.
Yeah. So what made you move to Koenig then?
Well, I was at Everest for sort of 13 years, and whilst I was always kind of manufacturing director, I ended up sitting on the main board. We had fantastic experiences of growing a business, you know. And that's when Everest was a real superpower, really. I joined it in 98. It was turning over 80 million, losing 2 or 3. So my task was to, you know, to make it more efficient. You know, I was focused on just the factories. You know, there's a whole bunch of clever guys and girls in marketing. You know, fascinating business, you know, in terms of like generating 10,000, you know, leads a month.
Wow.
You know, so a great barometer,
Yeah.
you know, for how the industry was, you know, doing, and what the economy, and now the link between the economy, you know, and lead generation. So I was fortunate enough to be a small cog in a big wheel, really. That was my part. So I was doing my thing, my manufacturing thing, and making it more efficient and taking, you know, cost out of the business, driving down manufacturing costs to make more profit. So during that 11, 12 year period where we were growing, we went from 80 million losing 3 to turning over 165 million, you know, making a net profit of 18 million.
Wow.
So, you know, it was fantastic times. Yeah. And part of a great team as well. You know, so I learned to work with lots of people. You know, I learned, you know, I like factories. That's my kind of thing. You know, I can relate to factories. My dad worked in a factory, you know, so I get it. You know, I know I can walk around the factory floor. In fact, we've walked around the factory floor today, and I know people. I know talk to people. I'm very open. I communicate, you know, well with people. But then being able to operate at that, you know, in a big company, Everest was a big company. I mean, we had a lot of self-employed sales guys, you know, in its pomp, 2009, 10, you know, we had 1,000 sales reps.
Wow.
You know, 180 managers managing that sales force. We had 550 installers, you know. It was a big business, you know, all told 3,000 employees. So I was operating in a big organisation, and I learned a lot from some fantastic colleagues. We stay in touch as well, you know. So my boss then, so Steve, he quickly was promoted to operations director. I took his manufacturing director role. Roy Eady came in, who you wouldn't know, but, you know, a fantastic guy, another great boss, you know, still a mentor of mine now. I talk to him every month. Retired long ago, Roy. He was ex-BAC. So Brian Kennedy, the owner, then knew Roy, brought Roy into kind of, you know, when Brian bought the businesses, Roy was the guy that he trusted with Everest. And he put a fantastic, phenomenal management team together. So I learned a lot about being part of that team, you know, working in that team environment. All of us had our field of expertise. You know, we had a fantastic marketing director, Duncan, fantastic sales director, Gary Risley, fantastic CEO, Roy, who knew enough about all of the disciplines in that business. Because it wasn't just a manufacturing fabrication business.
Yeah.
It had to be a marketing business, a sales professional. Roy had fantastic charisma. You know, imagine, caroling that sales force and getting it up every morning and putting it to bed at night and understanding the nuances of different marketing channels, because we're spending a lot on marketing. So it's a fascinating experience. And then that ended for me in 2011. And probably after 13 years, the business was changing, the market was changing. And sometimes when a business is on a certain course, it's very difficult to change it, even though I do change things. That's kind of what I do. And that's what I did. But the business was on a course. It didn't quite suit us at the time. So I left the business in 2011 and had a little bit of time out, actually, sort of doing, trying to start things, small things. And I did a consultancy, my income actually at the time, because we all need income. My income was Homebase. I did a consultancy role for Homebase. So they employed me to start up their window and door business. They were quite interested in getting into windows and doors. So I left and did that consultancy for Homebase. So I did back to front, so marketing, software in stores, find supply chain, installation. They were going to be a installation business. Unfortunately, I did all that work. I involved some of my DeKernick fabricators when I finally decided to go and get a proper job. And then Bunnings bought Homebase and closed it all down.
Oh,
so
I say I remember it. I remember everything, the brochures coming out, the guy, the angling guy that used to sit at the end of our our local Homebase was pushed out because they started selling.
That's right. Yeah, I wasn't very popular with some of the guys who did that in-store stuff, because that was their model. And Homebase were determined to get into windows and doors. And we did a pretty good job of it. It's a real shame, really, that, having done all the work and set it all up from scratch, that it all just vanished. And then, of course, Bunnings, the Australians, they knew better and they didn't. And they vanished then, eventually. So it's got new owners again now, Homebase. Right. But we did think that Homebase had permission to sell windows and doors. Sometimes when you go and extend brands, they don't have permission in that category. But Homebase definitely had permission to sell windows and doors to its customers. So, but there you go. That was another life in the glazing industry for me. Yeah. And I was trying to do some small things. I started an online door business, which wasn't successful. I got into solar panels. I had a business called Fit a Home, which wasn't successful. So I had a bit of failure, during like an 18-month period. And in the end, it wasn't me. My skill sets weren't a small business. It's, I learned a lot by being a small business, and I respect people who have small businesses, and they're my customers now. And I know how hard it is for small businesses, because you've got to do everything. Back in the day at Everest, because I looked after Everest conservatories and got into marketing, we made adverts, fantastic TV commercials. I remember where some of the TV commercials were conceived in marketing offices. You didn't expect Everest to be doing that today, did you? I remember where that was conceived. Transform your home, and Craig walking down the street, and but we had a team. We had a great marketing team. All of a sudden, you're in your own business, a small business, and who does that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
It's tricky. Yeah, it's really tricky, really difficult. So I learned a lot about myself. And Emma, my wife, she sort of, when the Homebase consultancy was coming to an end, so our income was kind of coming to an end, and I was investing in these other businesses. She just said, "Look, I really think you need to go and get a job. You need to kind of, maybe you've had a bit of time, almost like a sabbatical." And I was still very much, Everest was in my kind of blood, in my DNA a little bit. There for a long time, really cared about the people, and that had ended for me. So going and reinventing myself in an industry, I had headhunters trying to get me a job all the way through that period. Been offered various jobs, which I politely, declined. But in the end, I got talking to the CEO of DeKernick in Belgium. He invited me over to see him. He had a turnaround challenge in the UK. They'd lost their way a little bit more than a little bit in the UK. And this was a big multinational, window and door business in lots of countries. And he basically wanted to, turn around the UK business. It kind of dropped down to, I think it was 10 or 11 million turnover, losing money. That was from 60 million turnover. So quite a big drop. Yeah. They built a big warehouse. It was empty. And he described the challenge to me, and he could see my experience as more, manufacturing. That was my core competence. And it was a manufacturing business, very much about product and design, but different again to Everest, So systems companies are quite slow. He was trying to explain that I might get a bit frustrated by the slowness, because I've got to convert, fabricators who are using a particular system to grow the business. We could grow through our customers, which we did. We introduced new products and our customers liked the new products. We introduced colour, they liked the colour. So all of our fabricators, bar none, grew during my time at the Koenig, but equally we had to get new customers. And it's very, very difficult to convince a fabricator to change the profile. It's such a big, fundamental thing in their business. So it was a lot slower. But that's when I really learned about the industry, the wider industry. I met a great guy, another mentor of mine, really, Mike Rigby, MRA.
Yeah.
And Mike, I'll give Mike full credit for writing my strategy for the Koenig. So, and he made it a personal kind of thing, so I was available. I published my mobile phone number in all the trade press. At one point in 2012-13, there's a lot of pictures of me in all the magazines, and it's not an ego thing for me at all. That was Mike's strategy, was to put a face to the name De Koenig, because De Koenig at the time, I struggled to spell it. I was really, and interestingly now, because it does take time. And now when I'm on the Window Fitters forum on Facebook, window fitters can spell De Koenig properly, and they couldn't back in the day. It used to be some of the spelling of De Koenig, it was crazy. So I built a team. I fortunate at De Koenig actually to inherit a fantastic team in Caen and an empty warehouse, 160,000 square foot empty warehouse. And the original idea from the CEO was to kind of take all the extrusion over to Belgium and then just have a smaller scale distribution business.
Right.
But I learned quite early on that our customers the existing customers didn't like that idea. They saw it as another move in the wrong direction for them. They wanted UK manufacturing, and I wanted to make things in the UK, something I'm really passionate about. That's why I'm really proud that my factory, or my then factory in Treherbert, is still making windows and doors. Unfortunately, the factory in Sittingbourne has closed recently, which is very sad. But I want to make things in the UK. I'm a manufacturing guy. I don't want to be just a warehouse.
Yeah.
So we switched up the strategy. We filled that warehouse I was supposed to sell it. I was supposed to do a couple of things, really. I was supposed to make things in Belgium and bring them over and just distribute them and sell the big warehouse at the end of the road, in the Koenig's warehouse. And I did neither of those things. So today now, that warehouse is full of stock, coloured profiles, new products, and the manufacturing went from, I only had 4 extrusion lines when I joined De Koenig. They've now got 15 to 20 maybe. I haven't been there for a little while.
Right.
And a foiling plant, because we outsourced all the foiling, so put a really world-class foiling operation into that business, all in my 4 years at De Koenig. So that's 2012 to 2016. So it was a fantastic experience. I made it my job to get around and meet lots of great people. That's when I really did get to know the industry. I went on the Maddie Ball rally, met great people like Gareth Mobley, and I knew Dan Gill previously, who was the guy he's a very interesting guy. You should get him on your podcast, Dan. He's fascinating, really bright, innovator in this industry. Danny Williams, I've heard you interview Danny. Danny's been on I started doing some bike riding. Met Gary Morton, who did industry bike rides for the Hope House Hospice. So I went on a couple of the bike rides. I'm doing another one shortly with John Hewitt. We're going out to the States shortly. And I really did, whether it's networking, I guess, but I made it my job really to get to know the industry properly and understand the dynamics in the industry. So that was kind of my reinventing myself at De Koning, and really good advice from my wife Emma to go and get a job.
Yeah. You got to give her that one, yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. She can take full credit for that, because it was a really good piece of advice that she gave me.
I mean, it could have gone either way, because you could have seen it as a bit of a, oh, okay, but it was her way of showing you support,
Well, I think and it could have gone either way at De Koning, because there was a scenario whereby they'd closed the plant and just concentrated on other markets, but the CEO was particularly passionate about building the UK business again.
Yeah.
So, and that was, and I shared that passion because I liked the team that I found, but it was difficult. It wasn't simple. I didn't just wave a magic wand at it. We had to do a lot of work to make that business a success. But I know today, it is a success. I don't know exactly the turnover, but I'd imagine it's north of 50 million turnover now. So 10 to 50, I think it's a profitable business. It's got twice as many people working in that business in Wiltshire, so that's what drives me really, is, we've left a really successful business. All the fabricators, all the customers have all done pretty well. Ironically now they're competitors. But I'm really proud of what we did at De Koning, and I'm really proud to have left that team in really good shape with Rob McGlennon at the helm of the business. Fantastic industry guy, and it's just pushing forward.
Brilliant. I like that. So, what happened after De Koning?
Well, I was kind of going around and seeing fabricators all the time, whether that be customers and working with customers, or whether that be prospects and seeing prospects with Rob McGlennon. And what I could see, it was a consolidating industry. So there were less fabricators. So once upon a time, there were 3,400 PVC fabricators in the UK. Uh-huh. That had reduced to sort of 1,100-ish. And I was having conversations with customers and with prospects. They were all getting it to a point in their sort of business life where they were ready to pack it in, really.
Yeah.
Not to put too fine a point on it. And either trying to sell the business or trying to bring a manager into the business to do some kind of MBO type exit. So I could see it. And my time at De Koning was kind of, I'd run it really. I'd done it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was starting to get a bit
fidgety or itchy feet.
Yeah. And I kind of had that entrepreneurial itch that I needed to scratch again as well, So I was pretty confident that I'd set De Koning on a path and it could then prosper. I didn't want to leave it any other way. And so, I could see this consolidating industry at fabricator level. So I thought, well, maybe it is time to go and buy a business, a fabrication business. Again, not an area that I knew particularly well. Cocooned at Everest, retail installation business, systems company. And now I'm thinking, let's have a go at trade fabrication. So I became aware of a business that was a sale of retirement business called GJB in Essex. Great business. So I kind of left De Koning to buy GJB. That was kind of why I left De Koning. And here we are 5.5 years later, having bought two businesses, and that's how I've ended up doing what I'm doing today, really. And with some great people, with Caroline and Steve as my business partners. Steve, I've known Steve. He was the best boss I ever had. And Steve, he's a shareholder in the business. Caroline is a shareholder in the business. So I'm doing it with a team, building a great management team. Got some fantastic people in the business, and it seems to be working. It's not been without, again, it's bumps in the roads, but sticking to a strategy. We've got a good product lineup. You've been around the factory today and seen, we employ 330 people. I call them our colleagues. So it's very much a people-orientated business. We like to look after our colleagues. We pay well, we train, we retain, we make great quality products in both of our factories now. So having bought GJB in July, finally, took us 6 months to buy it because it was never straightforward, and the guys who needed to retire, Gary still works in the business actually, part-time. Gary Bristow, fantastic guy. You know, I learnt a lot from Gary. You know, he helps his customers a lot. You know, his customers, you know, whether that be, so we're not, and Gary was never just a fabrication business. He'd help customers with their accounts, with their marketing, with their,
Yeah.
you know, now back in the day it's changed a lot, but Gary was very much an advocate. He'd get his customers together, they'd share best practice, they'd all go and buy from the same glass supplier to get a better discount for the, you know, because he didn't manufacture glass. So Gary was a really great, you know, great businessman and ran a great fabrication business. And we bought that business. It took us 6 months to buy it because he ended up being quite a reluctant let go of his business.
Well, it
It was really quite tricky. And then 3 months into owning that, Listers went into administration. And everyone was shocked as to why. And I kind of thought, I knew Listers pretty well. I'd tried to sell the Koenig plastic to Darren, who was one of the owners then, so I knew Darren pretty well. But he stuck with Halo, and we still fabricate Halo today. So I came up, and the car park was full of the great and the good of the glazing industry, all, you know, looking to why, you know, it's a great business. It had won Fabricator of the Year 4 times. It had won all kinds of awards over the years, and it was and it is a fantastic fabrication plant, but it just kind of lost its way, ended up in administration, and it was too good to look past, really. So having just bought GJB in Essex, I'm now buying Listers in Stoke-on-Trent, and that's, I don't know the exact mileage, it's at least 180 miles. Oh, and I live in Bedfordshire, just to just to make life even harder. Yeah, my wife said, if you can find a hard way, you'll find it, Roy. But that's business, though. And anyone who thinks it's easy, it's not. It's hard. So we bought Listers out of administration. Lots of challenges. You know, there's reasons why businesses go into administration. And I won't go into the particular reasons because I don't think it's fair because it's fundamentally a great business. And but it's taken us a while to kind of get it absolutely where it needs to be. And working properly then with the business in Essex. So we have consolidated. You know, we are, you know, now a 36 million turnover business between the 2 factories. We've got great factories, great product lineup. We do lots of stuff with our customers. So we do make lots of windows. We're quite agile. We make lots of foiled windows, lots of premium windows, aluminium windows. So we're kind of a bit of a one-stop shop for an installer. We support that with good software. You know, I'm quite a big advocate of software that helps our customers buy from us and sell to their customers. Nice marketing support, so good brochures, not just pictures. You know, it's attention to detail. I'll send you away with some of our stuff, you know, and you'll see the attention to detail. You know, consumers don't want to see pictures of profiles, or they want to see stuff they touch. You know, the handles and the
100% agree.
And they need inspiration. It's the same sort of sales process as it's always been. It's just been digitized in a modern way. You know, so the sales presenter is now a brochure, so it helps people make the decisions. You know, let's take people through a buying scenario. Let's give people the, you know, what's an equal sightline window look like, and what are Georgian bars, what are astragal, what are, you know, all these things that we just in the industry, we talk about, but actually Mr. and Mrs. who are just coming into to buy some windows, you know, I think it's every 7 years maybe, and maybe pop in and buy something from our industry, then they don't really get all of that sort of stuff, right? So we've got to bring it to life.
Exactly.
Then they need inspiration, you know, of course, you know, you're changing PVC windows now. I thought I'd already got double glazing. Of course, we've now got flush, and we've got foils, and we've got aluminium bifolding doors. So bringing all that to life and explaining what that means for a homeowner. How do they save money on their energy bills? You know, let's illustrate it properly.
Yeah.
Particularly, you know, since the electricity and gas prices have shot through the roof. You know, it's a big part of being able to explain to a homeowner who's just coming into the market what that all means for them.
Yeah.
So I still kind of, although I was always a manufacturing guy at Everest, I did learn a lot about, you know, that marketing and sales and bringing to life and making, you know, good point of sale, point of sale detail. So it's kind of living in my customers' shoes who have to do the hard work of selling these windows and doors
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
installing these windows and doors. Now, I did do that in a larger organisation, so I do kind of live in my customers' shoes a lot. So, and because I can do it, and we've got active customers right now, 900. So,
Wow, yeah.
having had a small go at being a small business that didn't succeed, didn't go bust either. Neither of those businesses went bust. I never let anyone down in my career. But just having that insight of how hard it was to do it in a small business, I'm in a fortunate position where I can amplify what we do. So lots of my customers can access all of this stuff. So I see ourselves as not just a product supplier, fabricator. There's a lot more about what we do than just that.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's the core competence, and
Yeah.
that's what we need to be really good at. We need to be able to design things. We give our customers, we try and build USPs into our products to make them stand out from their competitors. So the new smart Kubu stuff that we're doing now, all of our windows and doors are supplied with smart equipped locks in the doors and in the windows, which is really good. I've been working with Mark at Avantis on this for 5 years now. It's taken that long to get it right, but it's fantastic. Giving customers, these advantages, £4,000 security guarantee, secure by design, the best performing U-value products, the new shear line system that we're just launching with Roger's team, which is fabulous, but 1.4 U-value, it's compliance, building regs compliant, no questions, just move on, it does it. Oh, it's past 24 security tested. So all of our products, I put everything through secure by design and through past 24 testing. So our customers have just got it. It's it's done. Just move on. Let's talk about design now. So kind of like living in my customer's shoes to understand what the customer homeowner wants and facilitating that process for our customers. It's something that I'm quite passionate about. I'm fortunate that I've got a lot of experience from previous. So let's put it to good use.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's really good. It's really powerful what you're doing. I'm just sort of thinking, going back to the smaller businesses that you had, how do you find it now in comparison? So now you're on a bigger scale, but you've got a team around you. But the flip side to that is you've got to keep all these people going. There's mortgages there and things. Whereas when you were smaller, and this is the mindset. The reason I'm asking this is because there's a lot of people probably listening to this podcast thinking, I've got a small business. I want to hire a team around me. Should I do it? And this is where it all comes into it.
It's very different, and I maybe wasn't cut out to be a small business. I think my experience has always been in bigger companies. But it was nice having that insight of, because that fundamentally a lot of my customers are small businesses, so I like to help people. It's something that I've always wanted to do, whether that be helping people in our businesses to get better, my managers to develop them, my customers to help them grow. Whether that we did a lot of that at De Koenig. One of the things I like introducing people. I remember introducing 3 or 4 of my customers at De Koenig. They helped do the home base project. They supplied home base doors and windows, and getting those guys together who were fundamentally competitors. But all of a sudden, and I know that they're still friends. The friendships. Creating friendships and bringing people together. It's very difficult. It's very different in a bigger business. So my job. I kind of have to. I can't touch all 4 walls. It's impossible. I've got a factory. I'm speaking to you here in Stoke-on-Trent. There's a factory down in Essex with a management team who run that factory. It's not me running that factory. It's my job to support that management team, develop that management team, bring the right people together to support what is quite a significant business. So it's very different to running a small business, running the business that we run here. And I'm very, my job is to set a strategy, set a direction, and then develop the management team behind me. I liken it a lot to sport, because I'm quite into my sport. I used to play a lot of football back in the day. Fortunately, packed up before I packed up, knees and all the rest of it. So stopped playing football. Actually, when I moved to South Wales, it was an opportune time for me to stop playing football. But in my business, it's quite competitive. Football's a competitive game. I support Nottingham Forest, who are currently, we've just been promoted to the Premier League, and we've just bought about 1,000 new players, and being vilified for that. But I've got, and I'm recently just, I'm making like Premier League signings in my business. These players that I've got in my management team are up a notch, because we're moving on. We're growing, and it's important to support that growth with the right team around me. So my job is set the strategy, set a direction of travel, and then build that, tremendous management team. Take me 5 years to get to where we're at, but I've got my management conference actually this week, and we'll have 30 plus of our management team at the conference, and there's not one person in that room who I wouldn't want to be in that room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, yeah.
But it's taken me 5 years to build that team.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic team, fantastic group of people, and we all get on, and we all have fun, and we treat people properly, and that's how we do it. So it's very different, what we've created. Very proud of it, and I think we've got a business now that's set to continue to develop and provide good jobs and good incomes for all of our colleagues in the businesses.
Yeah, brilliant. And I suppose there's one thing there that stands out is not everyone factors it in, but time. You think about buying businesses, you need the money, but then you'll be putting money into whatever you're doing to grow it. But it's the time that people forget about, and that's a cost.
Yeah.
And 5 years, but it doesn't happen overnight. And this is what I try to explain to people, that the people that are successful at making things work, they put a lot of time and effort into it, and you don't always see it.
No, you don't see it. I doff my cap to any business owner as well, because a business is you live with your business. It goes to bed with you at night, and you wake up with it in the morning. I think at Everest, and certainly at De Koning, I was an MD, so I was a board director. But this is different. This is cash flow. This is a whole heap of responsibility. Livelihoods of people. Going into COVID, my word, how scary was that? It was terrifying. So a lot of responsibility, which I take very seriously, a lot of work, a lot of hours, a lot of time in my car, because I don't live near either of my, manufacturing bases. We've got some trade counter collection sort of points, extensions of the factory really, where we drop products. So I've actually finally got a business, or part of my business, on my doorstep in Bedfordshire, which is great.
Yeah.
I it's 10 minutes away from where I live, but no, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of sacrifice. But hopefully, I'm starting to step back now a little bit and reflect and push us forward. So I've had to kind of change the way I operate in the business as well.
Yeah.
Certainly, as we've been buying the businesses, it hasn't always been the way. I haven't. I go to each factory once a week, but some mornings I was waking up in Bedfordshire, not really knowing which direction I had to go in.
Yeah, okay.
Because both places needed me. It wasn't the case of me, just rocking up, and both places needed me. So which direction do we go today?
Yeah.
Because I can't be in two places at one time. But that's how it was. Now, obviously, it's different again.
That'd be like trying to pick your favourite child, or the child that needs you the most, I can only imagine.
Favourite child.
Could only.
They're both glorious.
That is the. Yeah, you have to say
it's tricky, really difficult. So I doff my cap to all business owners. Not just in this industry, but business lives with you. It's like it's part of you. It goes. It's with you all the time. So no matter how big or small you are, matters not. I think business owners, massive respect to all business owners. It's a tough gig.
Yeah.
It's a really tough gig.
You mentioned software, that you're big on that and supporting customers, but is that a big part of your manufacturing business?
Yeah, so I mean, software is really important in a factory environment. Sort of barcodes tracking and scanning, making sure all the components for that order are all scanned onto the trucks at the end of the process. And I was kind of fascinated when I came out of Everest, where we had our own software and we had our own IT team. We had sort of 15 strong
Oh, wow.
IT team at Everest, and we created our own software to help our salespeople sell in homes, and our surveyors. We didn't have order processors in Everest. The sales guy used to go out with a laptop. It was a bit clunky. It's all moved on now. We're talking about IBM computers and DOS and all the rest of it. But the sales guys were able to do an accurate presentation, price it accurately, and leave a professional contract at the end of that sales process. And the surveyors would go in and specify all the products, punch it into their laptop and press go, and that order would find itself into my factories.
Wow.
The same day. We didn't have order processors reprocessing stuff in Everest. It was
efficient.
It was massively efficient. So then when I started to see what happened in trade fabrication and asking for quotations all the time, and then eventually we'd get the job or a customer would get the job, then we'd have to reprocess it into our window designer systems, business micro systems, etc. It did strike me as being quite inefficient. So why can't we have software that doesn't just operate in a factory environment, which is clearly important for us, really slick, barcode tracking, don't make mistake, helps. Software should help.
Yeah.
Software should help, not hinder. But I saw all these big inefficiencies, and why wait for a quotation? Let's give customers software whereby they can access it 365 days a year, 24/7, to get their own quotations. Now, that's not to say that we still do a lot of quotations for customers, because some customers just want it that way.
Yep.
And that's fine. That's just fine. We'll take orders whichever way. On
Yeah.
a piece of plasterboard all the way through to facilitating software systems that help people quote and then convert it into their quotation. So it's something that we're very passionate about. I've met some good software guys, So Nick Dutton, who founded Doorstop, he developed his software with Paul Callahan and Richie Thornton at the consultancy, who got great, door designers and great experience of retail sort of installation. Yeah. This is this software that goes out rather than the software that just stays in a factory.
Yes.
And I've been fortunate to get to know all these guys and talk to them and see what they were doing in the marketplace. And then I'm very friendly with Graham Bailey, Business Micros. In fact, I like networking and I like to introduce my friends to one another. And I remember introducing Paul at the consultancy to Graham at Business Micros. And then lo and behold, one day Graham decided to buy the consultancy to put the software together. So we've got great software that operates in a factory and great software that operates in a retail environment. So and we're going to be on that journey with Graham and Paul when we launch, and Richie when we launch Touch very shortly, which will be our new software system for our customers. So really exciting. I like Tommy Trinder. I think that's fantastic software. I was very involved in Price Point as well. That was software that we developed with MP Logic when we did home-based windows and doors.
Right.
So kind of been around sort of software in the industry for a lifetime, really. and so it's not just about the efficiencies it creates, it's the mistakes it can, so it's always,
yes, absolutely, yeah.
Manual data entry is always, it's complicated what we do, and it's just got far more complicated now. Once upon a time, we used to make PVC white windows, and I remember at Everest, actually, the marketing director coming in and saying, look, I think we need to launch this new colour. It was charcoal green. And I said, we can't possibly have that complexity in our factory. At the time, we did white PVC, golden oak, and rosewood.
Not mahogany, rosewood.
Not mahogany, not mahogany, rosewood. We changed from mahogany to rosewood. But another color, all these profiles. Well, you've seen our factory today.
Yes.
Where it's phenomenal, the proliferation of color now, and the proliferation of product and mistakes.
Yeah.
And it happens everywhere. Where I'm very much into using recycled materials in profiles. We want to be fair to the planet. We're trying to do good things. I'm very much into the environmental kind of thing. So to see mistakes which invariably end up in skips and glass going into bins, it's not where we want to be. Yeah. So software can help us make less mistakes. So now I'm a big advocate of software, and I'm really excited to launch Touch in the next few months to our customers.
No, brilliant. And I completely agree. I like what you said about software is there to help, not hinder.
Yeah.
And from a mistakes point of view, I've definitely worked in I've made enough mistakes making Windows to fill a book. I didn't realize there was a remake book, and I was in there quite a bit. Yeah. So they definitely happen.
Yeah.
So you've got a nice bike behind you.
So I was a late entrant to the ride. So John was quite keen for me to join. I'm quite, as we've already discussed, I'm quite a networker. So I've got a lot of guys who. So it makes me a good fundraiser, because that's what it's about. Fundamentally, is about raising lots of money for what I believe is a fantastic cause. So I know you've interviewed John quite recently, so he's gone through who Kelly is. Kelly's his daughter, who sadly he lost his daughter to suicide in 2018. I've lost 2 brother-in-laws to suicide over the last 10 years as well. So it's the kind of cause that resonates with me. Yeah. And I've seen the charity, I've seen how it operates. It's providing fantastic support to raise awareness of mental health. On the wheels you can see the Ask Twice and Not Alone hashtags, and also supporting families. So when we lost our brothers and brother-in-laws, we didn't get any bereavement counselling. We didn't know where to go. It's something that still affects us today. So I think about them every day. That's how it is, and I can't imagine. I can imagine what John went through with losing Kelly. I've had to train really hard. I wasn't going to do it because I've got bulging discs in my back. I put weight on. I'd done a few of these rides in the past because I did used to do a lot of cycling in my youth. So it's been a big deal, really, getting myself in any kind of shape to do 3,452 miles across from New York to San Francisco.
Yeah, fantastic. The charity, it was an eye-opening for when I found out about it, and the fact that it's not just, they're not just putting money in to help, they're actually solving and helping at a very practical level, to the point where, you could argue they're better than the NHS. So, it's fantastic. So that's quite a journey you've had, and you're doing a lot of good as well. So in all of that journey, is there a low point that sticks out for you?
Yeah, there's quite a few, but Monday, the 23rd of March, 2020, when 8 o'clock, we're all watching Boris as he sort of closed down our businesses. And it was scary times, right? We didn't really know what was going on. I'd before the 23rd, I'd been to Cheltenham.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
coming my way.
The Cheltenham Festival. I'd been to see.
Oh, you were there.
I was one of the.
Yes,
that was. Do you remember all of that?
Yeah, I do.
And I remember, I went to the England Wales rugby match. That was a couple of weeks before that. So I'd been on a holiday. My wife was just getting over a breast cancer operation, so a radiotherapy was just about to start, and so we kind of had a few bucket list things we wanted to do. So we were doing them before the radiotherapy started, kind of thing. So we were living life to the max and doing everything I think we could do to get COVID during that period. In fact, I drove away from Cheltenham and I didn't come back to the factories after that because I wasn't quite sure whether I'd done the right thing or the wrong thing. So we effectively isolated then, waiting for Emma's radiotherapy to start. And so I was in touch with the factories through the management team and through Teams and this, that, and the other. We were doing Teams before it was famous, because I wasn't sure whether I got COVID, because if you remember then, it was all kind of accelerating every day.
Yes,
It was kind of something was happening. But when Boris told us to close the factories, what a day. What a day that was. That definitely my lowest day, because I bought the businesses. We'd fought hard. We'd had a few bumps in the road along the way. We got debt to finance the acquisitions. We employed, at the time, 280 people who all relied on us. The payroll was due at the end of the week. And we literally that evening made the decision. We heard what he said. Non-essential businesses were to close. We were non-essential. There were a few arguing that they were essential, and they carried on. But we did what I thought was the right thing in conjunction with our suppliers, Eurocell and Vica and Glass Systems. We all chose to close our factories on the Tuesday. But oh my word, that was a significantly low point. And that's definitely the lowest point in my career.
Well, on the flip side of that, is there a high point that sticks out for you?
Well, funnily enough, it was Friday the 27th of March 2020 when Rishi announced the furlough scheme and help for businesses, because that meant that I could pay our colleagues, so 250 livelihoods saved, really, because I couldn't find another way of doing it, not carrying that salary cost, paying all suppliers. I mean, we'd frozen the business at that point in conjunction with our suppliers. And, that's why suppliers and your relationships with suppliers is so crucial, because you don't know when you're going to need one another, So I'm a very loyal guy. I work very closely with my supplier partners, with our customer partners, and for times like that, when absolutely that's what you need to be, to be doing. So very loyal to suppliers. But yeah, when Rishi announced the furlough scheme, that was a massive high point, because people and, the responsibility we have as business owners to our people, to our colleagues, we take very seriously. And so that was the high point so within, talk about highs and lows, Monday to Friday, what a week. What a week. Yeah.
Last question, one that you've probably heard before. If you had to spend 2 weeks on a desert island with someone, just one, from the fenestration industry, who would it be?
Well, it's quite easy for me, because my wife does work in the fenestration industry, and my wife is, the advice she gave me to go and get a job, she keeps me very level-headed and grounded, Emma, and we have a great relationship. She's helped me through some shark-infested waters in this industry over the sort of 28 years that I've been in the glazing industry. And let's be frank, I don't think I'd survive for 2 weeks without Emma in any case. So I would love to spend 2 weeks on a desert island with my wife, Emma.
A brilliant answer, and you definitely can't get in trouble for that one.
It's good for a change.
Roy, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for coming on. And
Thanks,
you're welcome back anytime.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming to see us at Listers.
Thank you.